By the early 1990s, with the end of the Cold War, the world looked dramatically different. The Berlin Wall had fallen, a strong united Germany had risen, new republics in Eastern Europe had been declared. Meanwhile, Canadians still debated over free trade, GST, and the Meech Lake Accord. Audrey McLaughlin had become the first female federal party leader. Kelvin High School was also changing with the times. Mrs. Walks, an African Canadian, was appointed Kelvin's first female vice principal. A few years later, the school established its first women's issues group. They started the tradition of holding an annual Montreal Massacre Vigil. The ceremony commemorated the 14 women killed on December 6, 1989. Students were also engaged in the political process. Although too young to vote, they participated in mock elections. They heard Quebecois speakers discuss the pros and cons of Quebec sovereignty. They listened attentively and asked questions at the school's all-candidates political forums. The school also developed a more acute social conscience. Mr. Tom Dickens, a talented social studies teacher, started the school's first recycling program. A group member wrote, "The greening of Kelvin is a hopeful sign that personal and public attitudes towards pollution, overconsumption, waste of resources, and social responsibility have changed for the better." The first ever Kelvin's Human Rights Day was organized. Soon, the school would also have its own Charter of Rights and Responsibilities. In 1996, Shauna Troniak and Sarah Regehr-Neufeld decided to create a club for those interested in environmental and social justice issues. Led by Mr. Raymond Sokolsky, a socially conscious teacher, Hopeful Aware Students Taking Action, as it is now known, is a highly respected group in the community. They have both won the YMYWCA's Peace Medal and the Youth Humanitarian Award. Through their school-wide awareness campaigns and fundraisers, HASTA has contributed in making Kelvin students more globally mindful, progressive, and tolerant. Kelvin was more open-minded, but it was also bigger. In 1995, about 300 grade 9 students arrived at the school. The now much larger student body continued to be engaged in school activities. Students in the Alternative Musicians Club played their electric guitars after school in the library. Others recited verses from Hamlet at Shakespeare in the Snow. Some performed in the Mikado and Bye Bye Birdie. Most broadened their minds through student travel, sometimes in canoes, other times in choir or band trips. They went to Chicago, Denver, and St. Louis. Some went to France, China, and Korea. The students also continued to win provincial championships. In the fall of 1989, for the first time in 25 years, the football team once again brought back the trophy to Kelvin. They had an undefeated season. In a defensive-oriented final, the team defeated Tech Voc 4-2. One student remembered, just before leaving for the stadium, Coach Normando assembled all the team in the cafeteria and assured them that as long as we played our game, we could not lose. Not to mention that it was our destiny to win the game, so what else was there to worry about? In 1999, Paul Normando led his football team once more to provincial glory. A few years later, he won the National High School Coach of the Year award. The Hardwood was another site of celebration during the 1990s. In 1993, the varsity girls basketball team won their only provincial championship title. A few years later, the varsity boys basketball team also made history. Coached by Jaime Fox, a superb teacher of the game, the boys won the provincials for the first and only time. Art Bryant sat on Coach Fox's bench that championship night. Bryant, a longtime Kelvin guidance counselor, never failed to offer his time and advice to thousands of students. When he retired, one student wrote, "He has been the one to help us sort out our courses and our lives. He has been there to solve our problems, give us money, give us food, find us a place to stay, and fix things up with our teachers and parents. He has coached our teams and attended our games. He has been our very best fan." By the first decade of the new century, Kelvin looked very different from the past. In 2003, a new addition was built on the east side of the school. It offered more classroom space, a computer lab, and 2 spacious art rooms. The student body was also more diverse than it had ever been. Increasingly multi-ethnic, there were Chinese, Korean, Filipino, African, Aboriginal, and many other students graduating from the school. Valerie Deacon and Joanne Gallagher created the Multi-School Diversity Action Group. Its aim was to combat homophobia in various Manitoba high schools. In 2003, Kelvin's Gay Straight Alliance Group was established. It continues to provide a safe and supportive environment for the school's students. Today, Kelvin High School's future remains bright. The school maintains its excellent reputation for academics, sports, and the arts. In the last 15 years, the school has produced 3 Rhodes Scholars: Ariel Zalberman, Aaron Trachtenberg, and Melissa Bailey. All 3 will certainly go on to have distinguished academic careers. Scott Coe, Eddie Steele, and Donald Ramasinwu have recently played in the CFL. Fraser McLaren now skates for the San Jose Sharks. John K. Sampson and Stephen Carroll play with the popular band The Weakerthans. Sarah Johnson's photographs have been displayed in New York's Guggenheim. Ruth Moody is a Juno-winning artist and a member of the Wailing Jennies. These are just a few names of recent notable grads, but there are many more. None are members of the Order of Canada, but these graduates are still young. They still have full careers ahead of them, and they still have many opportunities to make a difference in the lives of others. Someday, they might follow in the footsteps of Doris Saunders, Frank Fredrickson, Marshall McLuhan, and Neil Young. Al Weeb, the affable Kelvin graphics teacher, once told a group of students, "You have heard me say this 100 times, so I'll just remind you one more time before you leave. Keep smiling, and let's do something nice for someone out there." After 100 years, so many Kelvin graduates have done just that.